No denying it. That was a ugly win for Michigan State football on Friday night, but it was a win. And that's a win. And a win is a win. It was a
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white 5 days a week right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below if you're in the camp of, hey, you know what? Yeah, we celebrated Friday night because we won. Or if you're in the camp of, no, it's a little too ugly to fully celebrate, because we're going to get to that all in the first segment. Later on this show, we'll talk a little bit about the Maui Invitational. We're going to talk about the big recruiting news that happened. Bryce Underwood flips to Michigan. How does that impact Michigan State at all? But hey, before getting into any of that, guys, again, please rate, review, subscribe. Do whatever makes you happy on this fine Saturday night. And I do want to start there. Sorry for the delay in getting to this post-game show, guys. And also, we'll thank you for giving me ample time to thaw out after that game. I was lucky enough to go to the game Friday night, first game I've been to this season, and I couldn't have picked a better weather day to go. So, no, thanks for all your patience there. We're going to hop into someone else's words right now. Not my own. We're going to go to Twitter because Spartan 1963, they tweeted it out best as to how to paint the picture for Friday night's 24-17 thriller victory. Anyway, Spartan 1963 wrote in, this game was the football version of, quote, nobody's ugly at 2 a.m. A win is a win. Bang on. Nailed it right there. Because that was the football equivalent. Rick's is shutting down. You're just praying for anything to come your way, and then, oh, well, there they are. They got 4 teeth. Their breath smells like a dog. They have armpit hair coming out of their shirt. They have a credit score in the 80s. And oh, yeah, they also have a felony arson charge that they got about 5 years ago. But you know what? Anyone looks good at 2 a.m. Kind of how a win, even in that manner, still looks good in my eyes, at least. That game had it all, especially in the second half. My God, drop passes galore by both teams. Thankfully, more for Purdue than Michigan State. They had missed throws. They had punts. Unfortunately for Michigan State, just constantly rolling into the end zone. My favorite part of the game, not at all my favorite part of the game, actually, was the timeout that we called the second play of the second half. We have some organizational structure to start the second half. Whatever. Guys, nasty game. We all know that at this point. So on Twitter on Saturday, I reached out. I said, hey, next Locked On Spartans episode won't be until tonight, but I want to know how you feel about last night's win. I gave you guys 2 choices. Choice A is good. A win is a win. Choice B, too ugly to truly enjoy. And I got to say, walking out of Spartan Stadium, I don't know if that's just because, the pneumonia has set into everyone leaving that building, but not the most joyous atmosphere walking out of that building. Seeing your 24-3 halftime lead will turn into Purdue having a few chances to tie the game up late. The offense just looked dysfunctional the second half. Not the most joyous atmosphere walking back to the car after that game. The poll kind of matched the moods there because 64.2% of you, there's 400-ish votes, not the biggest poll we've ever done. Not a lot of people are online on the weekends, but they said too ugly to truly enjoy. The 64% majority did. 35% of people, of course, said good. A win is a win. So two things. Because I am in the camp of, you know what, a win is a win. Yes, ugly, but there's context to be added here. But before going any further on that, 2 things. We're going to do 2. Thing number 1 is actually something I'm not going to do. I'm not going to tell you, if you are in that camp, to not be upset after that game, because, well, I mean, sure, I for one, I can't be picky about a win. We lost 6 of our last 7 going to that one. I'm not going to be too choosy, but look, I also know that, well, and Lord knows himself, that I've been upset after some Michigan State wins too. Harken back to the 2019 Tulsa game where I left Spartan Stadium fuming even though we won 28-7 because, well, I knew that the offense was going to have the same exact issues they had the season before. So, look, if you left that stadium upset, if you're still on this Saturday kind of disappointed in that win, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, especially after this season. It's not good. Now, what we are going to also do is tell you why I think it's okay to walk away from that game feeling okay about the win. And if you think I'm just going to jump right to injuries and talk about that once again, well, you are right. You are correct. Now, I will scream this as loud as I possibly can without waking the kids up upstairs. I know injuries aren't the only reason Michigan State is where they're at right now. Injuries are not the sole reason that we have to win next week just to scrape by and make the game above Sports Bowl in Detroit. No, even our healthiest units have some problems. But we've crossed the bridge of, these injuries are kind of a nuisance too. No, they are a legitimate storyline. The offensive line, you know the deal. This has been a story since September. They're two right guards, Christian Phillips, Gavin Brocious, out for the year before the calendar even flips to October. All right, that threw everything for a loop on the offensive line. A unit that had razor-thin depth going into the season. You know the story there. Well, now at tight end, you're down your top two guys, less than 10 minutes into the game as Jack Valling went to the hospital after a really bad hit. And, you lost Michael Masunis early in the season, too. Now, where we really get into just uncharted territory for injuries is the defensive secondary. These are the guys who are out against Purdue. Chuck Brantley, Armarion Smith, Caleb Coley, Dylan Tatum, Chance Rucker, Malik Spencer. I just had to go to two hands to count the amount of injuries that the secondary alone has had. All right, guys, you have freshman Jalen Thompson out there starting at safety and logging 44 snaps. Ade Wiley, 51 snaps. That young man started as your third-string quarterback, and he started and had 51 snaps. You also have true freshman Andrew Brinson, Justin Denson coming off the bench, playing double-digit snaps. Yes, it was ugly. Yes, Purdue had some big-time conversions because our secondary looked lost at times. Well, that's why. This is a young, inexperienced secondary that has been thrown into the fire by way of injuries. So with all that said, I think that is a reason for, how things can get a little hairy and why no win is guaranteed even against a Purdue team. Maybe this is too, my attitude coming out of the game is because in the pregame show, I should say, it's kind of a game I expected. I thought that 13.5-point spread was way too big of a number considering what Michigan State, injuries aside, just the issues they have going on the offensive line and defensive line. I thought no Power 4 team, even one that hasn't won since August, should be that heavy of underdogs. Unfortunately, turned out we were right, but maybe that I just walked into the game with that mindset that I don't think it'll be a blowout. Maybe that helps things too in a weird way. But yeah, win is a win. We're going to get to some positives here in a hot second because, again, this is a winning episode. Bear with me, guys. We've done this now. This will be the second time in the last 8 games we've been able to do this. So yeah, allow us to shine the light on a few positives that happened in that game. But first, you need to talk your ears off about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Gang, I was swimming in the FanDuel prop bets, the same game parlays for that game on Friday night. Now, of course, I'm going to get that rolling with the NFL Sunday slate coming up. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. Like I said, guys, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets all on one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Also, holiday season coming in hot. You got to go to TeamTicker.com for the Spartan fan in your life. Or maybe that's just you. Treat yourself this holidays. Now, if you're listening on the podcast right now, you have no idea what I'm talking about. It's this sign right behind me that I'm going to try to paint with words right now. It's like any countdown to kickoff sign you've ever seen, except jacked up with so much steroids you cannot believe it. They cover all Michigan State sports. You will get the weather forecast for the upcoming football games. You'll get AP polls, relevant stats across the country. This thing will be the talk of your man cave, your kitchen, your garage, your bathroom, wherever you're going to throw a Team Ticker sign, because this is going to wow people. Doesn't take up a lot of space. It's just 2 feet by 1.5 feet, but man, it's retro in appearance, but the technology, modern day, baby. It is the best. So save $50 with the holiday sale going on at teamticker.com, guys. Hey, you know what? Holidays are going to be here before we know it. If you have no idea what to get someone, well, go to teamticker.com. The holiday sale, $50 off right now. Again, guys, teamticker.com. All right, let's do some positives because, damn it, that was a winning game by Michigan State. Sure, ugly, hairy, whatever you want to call it. The win is a win, and you allowed yourself to let it get hairy in the second half by what you did in the first half. I know that doesn't make a lot of people happy, players included. They did not walk off the field acting like they won that game. Even Aidan Chiles after the game was very disgusted with his performance in the second half. So, look, if you want to take their opinions on what they think, I don't think they were too thrilled with it either. And I'm not saying that we should be having a parade down Grand River, that this is the greatest win that this program has had since the Peach Bowl. But, hey, we're now one game away from a bowl game. And let's start with this positive right here because Matthew wrote in, LockedOnSpartans@gmail.com. Matt, I just want to share a cheers for anybody who had Michigan State over 4.5 wins this season. You might jinx a lot on the show, but you got that one. Moral victory or not, easy money. Matthew, we never jinx anything on the show. What are you talking about? Come on. Realistically, that was Vegas's expectation and probably the expectation for what should have been a lot of us, 4.5 wins. I was definitely on the higher side. I thought 7-5 this season, but said, you know what? A bowl game is certainly within this team's sights. All right. It still is. Do I think they will beat Rutgers next weekend? I don't. Just to prove to myself and all you viewers that I'm not just a blowhard that, just bleeds green and will just say anything good all the time. That's going to be a very hard game for Michigan State. Just with the talent issues that they already have to begin with, and then the injuries on top of that. Anyway, let's get back to more positives. That's right. Let's keep it upbeat here, Matt. Eye on the ball. The defense, okay, they showed out especially with running defense because you listening, that's right, even the person next to you, even the dog that's right in front of you right now, we all had 4 more rushing yards than Purdue did as a team, guys. They had -4 rushing yards. Incredible. Now, if you take away all the sack numbers, okay, well, Purdue had 20 yards, but that was on 16 carries. Like, they eliminated Purdue's run game. Is that a good Purdue running offense? No. They're terrible. There's a reason they've won 1 game since August, and the run offense, well, that's just one of the many reasons. But still, anytime you could do that against a Power 4 team, by definition, that's worth pointing out right there. Also, what have we been crying about nonstop on this show for the last few weeks? It was the pass rush being atrocious. And also on top of that, while the pass rush has been brutal, they haven't really been blitzing a lot so far this season. Until the second half against Illinois is when they really started to pour it on. My goodness gracious, they had 24 pressures on the Boilermakers. That was on 23 blitzes, according to Pro Football Focus. All right. Throughout the whole season, until last week, Joe Rossi did not blitz more than 10 times in any game against a Power 4 opponent. He's now realized that, okay, we've got to start sending guys home because we also just have freshmen playing in the secondary. All right, our pass rush can't get there with 4 guys. We can't have freshmen covering receivers for 8 seconds. We're going to start throwing 6 people at the quarterback, and that's what they did. That was a game changer right there. So thank you for listening to Locked On Spartans, Joe Rossi. Thank you for hearing our cries to please just blitz more. It's not work with 4 men, and that's how you get 24 pressures on the quarterback. Jordan Turner specifically, he had 3 pressures, but also, goodness gracious, that interception in the second half at times did not seem like that was ever going to be caught by a Spartan against all odds, but his hands got there just in the nick of time. So thank you, Mr. Turner, for that interception. And look, I know the defense did not have anything to do with these, but shout out to Purdue's drop passes. I watched the replay of that game this morning because in the stadium, when number 7 dropped the ball, I fell to my knees. I could not believe that you could drop something that has been so gifted to you, a Gametime touchdown. I watched it again. I was like, it couldn't have looked that bad on TV than it did in person. It looked even worse on TV. That's Purdue football right there, unfortunately. Really quick for the defense, they just missed 5 tackles as a whole. They kept it Okay, that's how you limit a team to just 20 yards on 16 carries. And then, well, of course, even less yards with the sacks included. On offense, great to see Nate Carter find the end zone twice, one rushing, one receiving, of course. K'Ron Lynch-Adams, 4.7 yards per carry. Saw a little glimmer of hope for the run game. That's been very hit and miss this season. More miss than hit, as we all know, but strong game by K'Ron Lynch-Adams. And also, shout out to the offensive line, who gave up 33 pressures on Aidan Chiles last week against Illinois. They tightened things up, just 12 pressures allowed this weekend. So strong game, as strong as you could hope for out of this pass protection unit at point blank. So got to give them a nod there too. Now, another positive, I'm just going to shout out the student section really quick because 40 degrees, 20-mile-an-hour winds, rain in the forecast. I didn't think that the student section would get any higher than the handicap railing if they have like 10 rows up. The whole lower bowl was full, and some of the upper deck was full, which for a Friday night game against a one-win team, when the team you root for itself isn't even that great, that was an impressive showing by the students. Now, I know that most of them left at halftime because most students like have a healthy attachment to their sports teams. Like they don't stay the entire game like us sickos do. I understand it. I'm not going to bash the students for not sticking around in a 21-point game in horrible weather to see if, their college team can get one win closer to a game above Sports Bowl. I understand that they got a lot more better things to do. But in that first half, impressive showing by the student section. Just have to give a nod there. I know that, I do this too. I like to, cry and moan about, student sections, everything. This was not one of those games. I thought it was pretty nice. So was it all pretty though? No, of course not. We saw a 24-3 lead evaporate. Your stars, like Nick Marsh, Aidan Chiles were fine. Nick Marsh had a few drops, which again, it's not like he had the worst game in the world. Some of those were very tough catches to make, but we've seen him make those kind of catches so far this year. Chiles, I think, again, fine. Not disastrous, not great, missed some big throws, also had some incredible throws. I mean, Montori Foster, that first touchdown of the game, his throw to Nate Carter at the end of half, those were beautiful throws. He also had some head scratchers out there. So, and of course, the Valiant injury is not good. I know I'm stating the obvious there, but I thought it was interesting that Chiles, after the game, he took full responsibility for that play. He said he tried to give the safety off Valiant by distracting him with his eyes. And then when he came back, he realized too late that the safety did not take the bait there. And then, well, of course, detonated Valiant, and then the cart was brought on the field immediately. But Chiles, after the game, wore that immediately. And just like we talked about, these guys weren't necessarily satisfied with this win. Chiles said, quote, "It's kind of disappointing when you come out and you're hot, and then the next half is just like you never played football before." So that's why I feel like saying that he played fine. Not extraordinary, probably hardly even good, but not bad, not horrendous. Somewhere in the middle. I think that's an appropriate grade for how he played on Friday night. So in closing, look, MSU has a chance at a bowl game, guys. I know that everyone's ready for year one of a rebuild until you actually start watching the games. Before the season, a lot of us, we were aligned. We said, you know what, get to a bowl game. That's going to be a successful season. This is a rebuild. And then you start to watch the games. Start to watch the offense struggle to score points in many of these games. You see the pass rush not getting home to the quarterback. They have been frustrating games, of course. But zoom out with me about 40,000 feet above sea level. The goal is still in front of Michigan State. It's going to be tough. Yes, Rutgers lost in a very bizarre fashion against Illinois today, but that's a well-coached team, except for the last 10 seconds of their game today, but all the other minutes and seconds for their season. Well coached by Greg Schiano. And of course, Michigan State will still have their issues in the trenches, the secondary injuries. I'm just glad this game is at home. That gives me more of a glimmer of hope. So, look, is it disappointing it took this long to be one game away from bowl eligibility? Sure, you can point to a few games on the schedule. Well, yeah, they were right there. Didn't get it done. But, look, the goals are there. Whether you agree with them or not, that was a realistic what the goal should be for this season. This was not going to be a college football playoff team. All right, so this is year one of a rebuild. You get a chance to do what you're supposed to do next week, 3:30, Fox Sports 1 against the Piscataway Scarlet Knights, baby. Let's go. Let's go. All right, we're going to talk about the big recruiting news that happened with Michigan and Bryce Underwood before the weekend started, and then a little sprinkle of Maui Invitational banter. But first, you need to talk your ears off about Gametime. That's right, the greatest ticketing app out there, guys. Now, why do I love Gametime? Well, if you know me, you know that I do like saving $1 or $2. Well, it's actually many dollars with Gametime. Because if you're already looking for tickets for this Saturday's game at Spartan Stadium, it's not too early to save. They got their flash deals going on constantly on the app. You could save big bucks on great seats. And, well, let's say Saturday, you know what? You wake up, you realize that I don't have any plans. This is great. I'm going to roll up to Spartan Stadium, but is it too late to save that money? No, it's not, because their last-minute ticket deals are second to none in the game, guys. You can even save a little after kickoff. Just open up the app. You will find great tickets, and it's 2 taps, and it's sent straight to your phone. They don't give you the whole runaround, clicking 15 times, and then you're surprised with fees at the end. No, it is painless with Gametime. So start saving right off the bat. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, guys, download the Gametime app. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It's Gametime. All right, not to go full Locked On Wolverines, which, by the way, Isaiah Holt does a fantastic job over there, Locked On Wolverines. But this is big recruiting news. It was the #1 player in the nation. He flipped from LSU. Brian Kelly keeps his dream season down there in Baton Rouge alive. What a nightmare. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it, at least for the Michigan State side of things, because, of course, we have thoughts on it. We got a few questions, whether it was email or on Twitter, too. So let's just go through it all right now, what it means for Michigan State, where my mindset is as a Michigan State fan. And for me, it's not even that they got a good player that gets my goat the most, right? Again, #1 kid in the country, #1 quarterback. Like, we're talking about the most popular position, too. Like, and obviously, you see him play high school football. He looks like just physically built, like he's in his 7th year in the NFL. Like, you can see why this kid is a 5-star kid, but it's not even that, I'm just riled up that Michigan got a good player. Why? Because, well, we've seen this before. Michigan gets 5 stars all the time. Like, if this was new, might be a dagger to my heart, but we've seen this song and dance. And of course, a 5-star at quarterback is no surefire guarantee for success. Do you want to get 5 stars in recruiting? Well, yeah, they have the higher likelihood of hitting, but it is far from a guarantee to just fix all the problems like that. So we'll see. Again, he could very well be great at Michigan. We're just not going to know. So while we're waiting here, here's what we do know, is how they got him, which is what I have the issue with. And no, I'm not saying like, oh, it's ridiculous to give a quarterback in high school $12 million. Like, well, sure, it is, but that's not even what I'm talking about specifically. Now, look, I have no issue with mocking the Michigan fans that have somehow convinced themselves that the money was not the reason he flipped to Michigan. We've seen delusion on that end many a times. That's another step up. The kid was offered a $1.5 million contract for his first year at LSU, or a fully guaranteed package of roughly $12 million at Michigan. No, I don't think it was the bus full of strangers from Wyandotte that attended his high school games that made him flip. I don't think it's the great offense that Sharon Moore is running that made him flip. It's the money. So I have no issue mocking the Michigan fans that think somehow that wasn't the issue. Anyway, I will not mock them, though, for needing so much money to flip him. Like, I'm not going to be one of the fans of being like, oh, well, Michigan, you must feel desperate. You had to pay the guy that much money to come to your school. You know how cool that must feel? You know how awesome. You know how awesome that must be to just throw that sort of money at a prospect and then convince him to go to your school. I wish. Oh my God, I don't say this a lot. Hardly ever say it. I don't know if I've ever said it. In that regard, just throwing money left and right, I do wish we were in their shoes for that. Like, that's so cool. Just to go out and pay and just buy any recruit you possibly can. My God. So no, I'm not going to be in the camp of like, oh, aren't we looking desperate? No, they're looking like a powerful NIL collective, and that is my crux right there. Right there. It's not that they got the 5-star quarterback and we don't. First of all, you need to actively recruit those sort of players. That's the first issue that Michigan State has. We got to look inward here. Can't be too upset about recruiting if we hardly recruit ourselves. But it's what the issue is, what the concern is that, well, over there, that seems they got a well-oiled NIL machine, right? And that was never going to be an issue with Michigan. It's about time they start to realize that they can pay. They don't have to do this whole like, oh no, we develop over here, we don't pay. No, start paying like normal people, right? Like you guys can fund your team like an NFL team, and that is concerning for a Michigan State fan because that will never stop. This $10.5, $12 million deal, whatever it is for Bryce Underwood, that was funded by one person, Larry Ellison. His wife is a big Michigan fan, so instead of diamond earrings or a nice dinner out on the town, well, she got a $12 million high school quarterback for Christmas this upcoming year. And that was just one guy. I'm really gonna go out on a limb here, and I think that Michigan has some other wealthy donors. Like that's gonna be a big hill to go up against for Michigan State. And of course, like we have, some billionaire donors too. Every college does, not at the level that Michigan does. So this is just gonna be a recurring thing, I'm afraid, and so that's my thing. Again, it's not that like, oh man, Bryce, he's going to take him to the college football playoff next year. We don't know that. But what we do know is that, well, yeah, they've finally woken up and start spending money here. And you look at that well-structured, of course, well-funded NIL collective over there. Can more than 50 Michigan State fans even name our NIL collective? Like it is so rarely even spoken about, except for like sometimes they'll flash it up on that ribbon board at Breslin Center. Like I don't ever remember hearing Alan Haller talk about it whatsoever, right? And this is like what our third or fourth official collective for Michigan State. It just seems really discombobulated over here, whereas you take a trip down the road and yeah, they're funding teams like NFL teams. So that's where I stand right there. No smarm, no like, oh, I'm not worried about it. No, that is concerning. That is concerning. I know in a little bit here, each team's going to be on the hook to fork over at least, was it $21 or $22 million? That's going to be on all schools for the revenue sharing. Okay, NIL isn't going to go away, though. That's just the baseline minimum of what colleges have to pay. Now, there's not a lot that can go over that $21 million, but one of them's that school. So there we go. All right, guys. So thanks for letting me sound off on that for a little bit. No idea if you guys care or not. I really do appreciate you guys, though, because it's massive news. It's in our backyard, and it is, of course, highly relevant to the rivalry. So really quick, we are going to have a roundtable discussion with other Locked On hosts about the Maui Invitational coming up. We had 6 of the 8 teams represented on that call. That episode's coming out tomorrow, but really quick, let's just dive into Michigan State's Monday game against Colorado, tipping off at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Now, Colorado, 4-0 on the season. They have not beat anyone necessarily impressive. They beat Eastern Washington. They took Northern Colorado to double overtime. Cal State Fullerton and, Harvard were their 4 wins. Now, they're kind of like Michigan State in the sense that they're still trying to figure out their lineups. Right? Like they have 10 guys right now that have averaged double-digit minutes so far this season. They've already mixed up their starting lineups a few times, even in just 4 games. But Colorado, what's good about this team? Well, first and foremost, they are, by all the metrics, the weakest team in this field, which says a lot about how strong this field is. I think on Bart Torvik, Colorado's 107. And everyone else is just well within that. So that's nice for Michigan State. Now, what else is good for Michigan State is Colorado is loose with the ball. They are loosey-goosey with the ball. They have a 23.1 turnover percentage. That is 341st in the nation. Not good. Not good. Also, they have a lower tempo than Samford. I know it's the last time we saw Michigan State against that, oftentimes, 94 feet of hell press defense that really frazzled Jeremy Fears. They play with a slightly below average tempo, so hopefully that's going to settle the team down a little bit. Now, what's bad for MSU? Colorado's a good shooting team. They are top 40 in free throw percentage. They shoot it at 78% from the charity stripe, and they are also top 30 at three-point shooting. 40.2% is what they are shooting from behind the arc this year. Now, they don't shoot a ton of threes, though. They're somewhere in the 200s for the amount of threes, but when they do it, they're amongst the best in the nation so far. So key players, I got 2 highlighted. Andrzej Jakimovski. That's right, the 6'8" pride of Macedonia. He's averaging 14 points a game over there. He's a Washington State transfer. He played 4 years over for the Cougars, so he is well experienced. He can stretch the floor, shoot inside, outside. I think he's like a 35% career three-point shooter if you're worried about that. But yeah, just a lawn stretch 4 over there. And then Elijah Malone, 6'10" center. He's an NAIA transfer from Grace College. So far this season, though, averaging 14 points, 6 rebounds a game. So that'll be a good contest for our front court. So those are the two guys that I've highlighted. Again, they've played 10 guys double-digit minutes so far this season. We will see a lot of faces at Colorado. But yeah, the winner of this game most likely gets UConn. We talked about it a little bit with Kevin Greck of Can't Read, Can't Write before the weekend. What would be success for Maui? I think it's 2-1 personally. And again, in a field this stacked, 2-1 is asking a lot. That's asking a lot from any team in this field. Of course, one team's going to go 3-0, but strapped, guys. Strapped. So if you can get away with 2-1, well, that means that you certainly have picked up at least one quad 1 win, I would imagine. And at worst, another, maybe Colorado can get up to a quad 2 win, depending on how their season goes in the Big 12. But yeah, 2-1, we'd be hula dancing on the recap shows if you could do that, especially if one of those games is Tuesday against UConn. If you can knock off the Huskies, I don't even care what happens in the championship. We will be celebrating that one heavily here on Locked On Spartans. What a statement that would be for the Spartans. All right, guys, if you're watching the live show right now, Saturday night, cannot thank you guys all enough. You guys are all truly the best. If we ran into each other at Spartan Stadium and you said that you were a fan of the show, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that, guys. You guys are truly the best. Love every single one of you. I mean it when I say that. I love every single one of you. Let's have a great weekend. Again, guys, on tomorrow's show, it's going to be the round table conversation with the Locked On Podcast Network guys for the Maui Invitational. But hey, until then, take care of yourselves, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go Green.